Welcome to this explainer. Today we're decoding something wildly eccentric, a formal proof repository that actually claims to find the universal logic connecting absolutely everything. We are looking at a system that strips away the messy everyday surface of reality to reveal the bare, unforgiving mathematical gears turning underneath. Okay, let's challenge some fundamental assumptions right off the bat. What if the exact same mathematical operators governed quantum physics, artificial intelligence, and 1970s glam rock? I know, it sounds completely like science fiction, but today we are exploring a coded framework that attempts to do exactly this. The sheer bizarre ambition of this operator theory code repository is that it literally acts as a Rosetta Stone for reality. Its scope is staggering. It casually juxtaposes ant colony collective intelligence with the physics of AI attention heads, and then throws in French philosopher Jean Baudrillard right next to quantum interoperable systems. It's a formal software environment mapping human culture and physical science using the exact same structural logic. To avoid total intellectual whiplash across these wildly disparate domains, here is our roadmap. 1. The math of everything. 2. Ants and the God formula. 3. AI as constructive interference. 4. Proving the hyper-real. 5. Quantum spin and culture. And finally, 6. The universal wake. Section 1. 1. The math of everything. Mapping reality into operator theory. When you actually dig into the dense structural code doing the heavy lifting, like the literal lean code for ant colony collective intelligence, you realize this isn't a mere simulation. It's a rigid mathematical proof forcing concepts we usually describe with poetry or biology to obey the absolute unforgiving rules of formal logic. So the absolutely crucial point here is that this code strips away all the physical metaphors. Whether it's biology or literature, it only looks at the structural weight and the underlying logic. An operator theory in this context means identifying universal modes, like a system extending outward or folding inward, and the invisible cords connecting them. To this code, incredibly, a biological cell dividing and a cultural idea spreading are the exact same mathematical shape. Section 2. 2. Ants and the God formula. Biology as an algebraic state. Let's see how this works in practice. The repository maps ant casts into what it calls a fork, race, and fold profile. Breeders represent the fold mode. Scouts represent the outward race mode. But here is the fascinating part. The reproductive void, these sterile worker ants, acts as an invisible operator cord bounding the colony's stability. They don't reproduce, but their mere presence mathematically pulls on both the breeding and scouting functions to keep the entire system alive. It's almost like a biological magic trick. The code even calculates a survival floor, a universal +1 quantum. In biological terms, that simply means at least one queen must survive. It's biology translated into undeniable algebra. Section 3. 3. AI as constructive interference, the physics of transformer attention. Jumping from ants right into artificial intelligence, the code mathematically proves that an AI attending to a target token isn't just making a choice. It is literally forming a standing wave of constructive interference. We usually think of AI as just calculating weights and probabilities, right? But this repository redefines AI attention as physical wave interference. When an AI focuses on a relevant word, its attention heads phase lock and resonate. When it's distracted, the waves destructively interfere and scatter to a frequency of 0. And that standard softmax function in AI, the code proves it's actually a damping operator preventing the whole system from oscillating completely out of control. The comparison here is incredibly stark. Learning only happens when an AI's attention is unsaturated and flexible. If the decay rate is under 100 steps, the AI can still vary its phase and actively learn. But if it becomes saturated, hitting a decay rate of 500 or more, it becomes a frozen, unchangeable standing wave. The gradient of learning is entirely blocked. The AI is mathematically trapped by its own resonance. Section 4. 4. Proving the hyper-real. French philosophy as software and variance. Now for a massive pivot. Take Jean Baudrillard's famous quote about the desert of the real itself. This explainer introduces it not as some abstract literary theory, but as an evacuated referential ground in an information circuit. We are literally taking the godfather of postmodernism and treating his life's work like a bug report in a software system. The code completely reduces this complex philosophy into pragmatic tags that prove a regime where the simulation functionally outranks the referent. The idea that the map precedes the territory is coded as a system state where the model leads practice. Think about it like this. You go to a national park just to verify if it actually looks like the photos you saw on your phone. The screen is the primary source. The code treats this hyperreal indistinction not as a fun metaphor, but as an active, observable state in a circuit, where the real and the simulation are pragmatically identical. Similarly, Samuel Beckett's famous triad is coded as a stripped executor, witness. It's modeled as a machine that has lost all data, purpose, and context, yet its loop still inexplicably executes. It's a beautiful, honestly kind of haunting translation of literature into computer science. The code defines a state where all data lost, all purpose lost, and all context lost are true. And yet, the Boolean tag for loop still executes remains true. It is literally a mathematical proof of human endurance without a reason. Section 5. Quantum spin and culture, the Beth ansatz. So, how does this build into quantum physics? Well, the repository takes the dense math of the Yang-Baxter equation, which defines integrable 1 + 1 dimensional quantum spin chains, and proves they speak the exact same algebraic language as AI transformers. This is a foundational equation in quantum mechanics, but here it's just another instance of a race phase interferometer. The math governing how subatomic particles interact is presented as structurally identical to the logic governing how an AI processes language, or how an ant colony balances its resources. To give this abstract math some serious, concrete weight, think about the number 18. In the insanely dense language of the repository, this is the exact number of admissible ice rule configurations in a 6-vertex model on a 2x2 torus. Yes, I know that sounds completely impenetrable, but what it essentially means is this. Out of all possible shapes the system can take, only 18 actually work without collapsing. And that specific balance of 18 is drawn out of a total possible 256 edge configurations. This proves just how incredibly narrow the band of true system stability really is. Whether you are building a quantum system or analyzing a cultural trend, the pathways that actually remain stable and balanced perfectly, the ones that don't just self-destruct, are remarkably rare. Section 6. The universal wake, the trace of passage. Okay, let's tie all of these domains together. Think about the sequence of temporal passage across entirely different eras. You have Attila the Hun in 453, Samuel Beckett in 1953, and David Bowie in 1971. This timeline maps how different cultural phenomena serve as varying algebraic operators of time and consequence. The code groups these together as proofs of passage. Every agent, no matter what domain, leaves a non-trivial mark on the system. The code strips Attila the Hun's famous "grass will never grow again" threat all the way down to this absolute foundational proof: 1 does not equal 0, meaning every agent leaves an irreversible mark. It's the ultimate reduction. A massive, bloody, historical footprint of conquest is distilled into a simple integer truth. You were here, therefore the system's state is forever changed. Then, applying operator inversion to David Bowie, the repository proves that his sequence of personal revisions is, in fact, a computable time-like record you can trace from the outside. Bowie famously sings about the phenomenological blind spot of feeling time pass, but the code proves that his constant reinventions act as a sequence that can be mathematically tracked. Even human reinvention leaves a structural wake. Which leaves us with this final, mind-bending thought about the entirely computable nature of our own existence. If a formal proof software can map the survival logic of an ant colony perfectly onto the attention mechanism of an AI and mathematically link the physics of quantum particles to the lyrics of a rock star, are we all just executing predictable code? Is the messy, beautiful reality we experience every day just the surface interface of an unyielding, hidden mathematical matrix? Definitely something to ponder as you leave your own irreversible wake today. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.